All right, good morning or afternoon, everyone. Go ahead and complete your warm-up for today. So here I have two parallel lines and two transversals. I see that my X, that's what I'm looking for, is on the outside of a triangle, because here I see that my two transversals form a triangle, and again, my X is on the outside. So this is an exterior angle of a triangle. Okay, that's what we're looking for. So we have to remember that an exterior angle of a triangle is equal to the sum of the non-adjacent angles in the triangle. So the two angles that are opposite of, in the triangle, opposite of the exterior angle. So when I look at this, I don't have either of them. So I need to look at the other angles that are near them to see, can that help me figure out what those angles are? And they can. This 67 right here is a vertical angle with this missing angle right here. They are on opposite sides of where my two lines up here cross, which means they're equal. So again, these angles are vertical, which means they are congruent, they're equal. So right now I already have one of them. Then when I look at this other empty angle, I see that right next to it is 132. My missing angle, this one right here, and my 132 are on a straight line. They form a straight line, which means they're supplementary, which means they equal 180. So this missing angle plus the 132 all has to equal 180 because they're on a straight line. So to figure out that missing angle, I take away 132 from 180, and I'm left with 48. So 48 is the measure of the inside angle. Now I have enough information to solve. Now I can add up 67 plus 48. Again, these are my two non-adjacent angles. And when I do that, I get 115 degrees. So X is 115 degrees. Always remember that normally in these types of problems, when we've got parallel lines and two transversals, you usually cannot solve this with just one step. Typically, it's 2 or 3 steps. So if you find yourself just simply subtracting the numbers that they're given or adding, you're probably missing something. So we have to look at always the relationship between where X is and where the other numbers are and how they're related. So today we're going to be reviewing comparing slopes and y-intercepts of functions or lines. So this one says function A passes through the points -1, -2, and 3, +2. Function B is shown below. Which function has a greater slope? So I'm looking for the one that's changing more every single time between our clear points. So again, a function is just when each x only has one y value. So these are just basically line A and line B. So I can first easily figure out my slope of function B, which is my line. I need to find two good clear points where I can see exactly the x and exactly the y. There's a few of them. I'm going to choose, though, this point right here and this point right here. I can tell exactly the x and the y. So automatically when I look at this line, I see that it's going down because if I look at it from left to right, it goes down, which means it's going to be a negative. So again, slope, remember, is the change in y over x. So I'm going to count my y up and down, except this I'm going down. 1, 2, 3, 4. So my slope is -4 and then over 1. So my slope here is -4. It's changing by 4 every time. If I go down another 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and over 1, I do get to my next point on my line. Now function A. And at this point, make sure you're also doing this on your paper. I can take my points, and the easiest way to figure out our slope is just put it in a table. So I have -1 and -2 as my first point, and +3, +2. Again, I want to find the change in the y. How far up or down are we going, just like we just did on the graph? If I'm going to go from -2 to +2, I'm going up 4. And if I'm going from -1 to +3, that's an increase of also 4. So my slope is 4 over 4. It's positive. 4 divided by 4 is 1. So when I look at these slopes, function B has a slope of -4, and function A has a slope of 1. Now when we compare slopes, we need to ignore the negatives. When we're talking about slopes, we're just talking about the change. So function B has a greater slope. It's changing by 4 every single time, whereas function A is only changing by 1. We can think of a greater slope also is that it's a steeper line. So again, when we compare slopes, we forget about the negatives and just look at the actual amount that it's changing by. Changing by 4 is much bigger than changing by 1. So here now I see two lines that are represented with a table and just an equation. I want to know the distance between their y-intercept. So automatically when I think about distance between, I think about subtraction and basically the spaces in between our y-intercepts. So I'm going to go first to the easy one, and the easy one is line B. Remember, our equation is y equals mx plus b, where b is our y-intercept. So it's the number by itself, it's the constant, it's always going to be just one number, it's not going to change. So here, my b in this case is -2. Always have to pay attention to the sign in front of it. For line A, I have to find my y equals mx plus b equation to get my b. So to figure out the y-intercept, I first need to figure out the slope. So we just reviewed this. To get the slope, I find the change in the y. To go from -9 to -5 is an increase of 4. As you see, I'm getting closer to my positive, so it's an increase of 4. Change in x from +5 to +4 is a decrease of 1. So my slope is -4. 4 divided by -1. So my equation, y equals mx plus b. And again, make sure you have this on your paper, so pause and copy it down if you haven't already. So now in order to get b by itself, I need to have numbers plugged in for y, m, and x. I can choose any point in the table for my y and my x. I'm going to choose this one just because they're both positives. It's easier to work with. So my y value is 3, so I plug it in for y. My slope I just found was -4 times, again, when two variables are touching, that means multiplication. My x value is 2, and then plus b because I don't have my y-intercept. On the right side, I can multiply. -4 times -2 is -8, plus b. Draw your line if that helps. Lastly, I need to get b by itself. This is a -8, so I'm going to add 8, do the opposite to both sides, and I get 11 equals b, my y-intercept. So I have a y-intercept of 11 for line A and a y-intercept for B of -2. I want to know the distance between. Distance between means subtract. So I'm going to take 11 and I'm going to subtract not 2, I'm going to subtract -2. And remember, when I subtract a negative, that turns into a positive. So this is really like 11 plus 2. So the distance between these is 13. I can also think about it as a graph. So if this was 11 up here and this was -2, Not going to draw all the lines. So in order to get down, if I'm at positive 11 up here, in order to get down to 0 to my x-axis, I would have to go down 11. Again, if I start at 11, just to get down here, I have to go down 11. And then to get down to negative 2, I would have to go an additional 2. And so if I go down 11, if I go down another 2, that means I'm moving a total of 13 spaces. So we're about to get into word problems, so I want to review real quick some keywords and phrases that will signal you whether you have to find the slope from a word problem or y-intercept. If you need to take a minute and write these down, pause the video to write them down. So keywords for slope would be like the words per, each, and every. That means we need to find something that's happening over and over, and that's what slope is. It changes something every single time you move over on your x-axis. Y-intercept only happens one time. So therefore, phrases like a one-time or a setup fee, flat rate, those means I pay it just once. Initial or starting amount, I'm paying it one time to start out with, and that's it. Installation fee, registration fee, those type of things I paid one time only. It's like our starting amount, and then I'm either going up or down from there. Entrance fee, down payment. Again, those are all happening one time. So in this problem, Derek's equipment rental and Wanda's water sports both charge by the hour to rent kayaks. The graph shows the total cost to rent a kayak from Derek's equipment rental, and the table shows the total cost to rent from Wanda's water sports. I want to know who charges more per hour and by how much. So in this question, I'm looking for who charges more per hour. The hourly rate, which means I have to find the slope. I'm paying something every single hour, so over and over, which means slope. And then by how much means I'm going to have to subtract. Okay, and so obviously on your paper, anytime you have it on the computer, best thing to do is to create a T-chart. So we have Derek's and we have Wanda's. So Derek's is easy. I need to find two clear points, which they actually give me. So I'm going to use this point. In this point, I need to count up and over. So we have to be careful with real world situations or any graph. I'm going up one line, but I need to look at my intervals. My intervals are not counting by ones. Each line is going to be counting by fives, because I start right here is at 30. The next line they give us is 40. However, the line in between, if 30 to 40 is 10, that means this line is 35. So each line is actually going up by $5 since we're talking about cost. So I have to go up $5. When I go over, 1, 2, it looks like 3 lines. But again, look at our intervals. My lines are not counting by ones. My hour starts at 1 and my next point actually ends at hour 2. So even though I'm going over multiple lines, I'm actually only increasing by 1 hour. Again, my first point is at 1 hour. My second point is at 2 hours, which means I changed by 1 hour. So $5 per hour. So my slope is therefore 5. Now, I already have the table on the screen. If I didn't, I would put that right now. I would draw a table under Wanda's water sports and have my 3 rows for hours, cost, and I only need to write down these first 2 rows of 2 hours and 5 hours. So I'm going to find the change in Y. What's the change in cost? Between 35 to 65 is an increase of $30. And I'm paying this $30 over a time period of 2 to 5 is an increase of $3 or 3 hours. So $30 for 3 hours. When I simplify or divide that out, that means it's $10 for 1 hour. So my slope is going to be, or my per hour rate is 10. So who charges more per hour? Wanda's is more because hers is 10. Derek's is only 5. So when I do 10 minus 5, Wanda charges $5 more per hour. So this one gives us no tables or graphs. It looks like a big problem. We'll take it one step at a time. Read first. Jerry's consultant company and Smith Consulting charge a one-time consultation fee. Consultation fee just means basically for the consultant, the person that has that business, and you are having a conversation in your meeting. So that one-time meeting fee plus an hourly fee. The equation y equals 25x plus 70 can be used to determine the cost at Smith Consulting Firm. Jerry's company charges $230 for 5 hours and $338 for 8 hours. I want to know which company's one-time fee is more expensive and by how much. If I'm looking for a one-time fee, that signals me I need to find the y-intercept. I'm looking for which one is more expensive, so bigger, and again, by how much means I'm going to subtract. I'm going to create a t-chart since I'm comparing two people, two things. So I have Jerry's and I have Smith. So it gives me the equation 25x plus 70, and we have to read carefully. Can be used to determine the cost at Smith. So I'm going to write that under the Smith column. Just because it comes first doesn't mean it goes into Jerry's column. Out of these two numbers, my B, my y-intercept, is 70. So therefore, the consultation fee, the one-time fee is $70. Now, for Jerry, it just gives us information. I'm going to create an X and Y table to just write these points in. Your hours, though, are going to be your X. Hours and time is almost always your X value. So for 5 hours, he charges $230. In 8 hours, he charges $338. Again, this includes that one-time fee, and it includes our hourly rate. So in order to find the y-intercept like before, I first have to find our slope because I need to plug into my equation y equals mx plus b to find that b. So my change in, we're going to do our y first. So to get from 230 to 338 is an increase of 108. So my slope is an increase of 108 over 5 to 8 is 3 hours. When I subtract, or not subtract, when I divide, I get m equals 36. So that's $36 per hour. Now I want the one-time fee, so I'm going to plug my numbers in. I'm going to choose my smaller point of 5 to 30. So we pay $230 by paying $36 for the 5 hours and then some one-time fee. On the right, I can multiply. 36 times 5 gives me 180 plus this one-time fee. Subtract my 180 from both sides. Okay, draw your line if that helps. And I get $50 equals B, or my one-time fee. So who is more expensive? Jerry is $50. Smith is $70. So Smith is more expensive by $20 because $70 minus $50 is $20. All right, now you go ahead and try this one on your own. Okay, so I'm going to create a T-chart. I have company 1 and I have company 2. Company 1 gives us the equation 9 plus 450x. And I'm looking for which one is cheaper, so the smaller number per hour. So this signals me I should be finding and comparing my slopes. So here my slope, my per hour charge is 450. So this one's flipped, don't get confused. Again, your slope is always with your x. So $4.50 is the per hour charge of company 2. For B, I had to find it by doing the change in y over the change in x. So 18 to 29 is an increase of $11, and 2 to 4. So it's an $11 increase over 2 hours. So when I divide that out, I get 5.5, or since we're talking about money, $5.50 for their hourly charge for company 2. I'm looking for which one is cheaper. 450 is cheaper. So company 1 is cheaper by $1, because 550 minus 450 gives me $1. Again, find our slopes, y over x, or whatever number is with your x. Compare, I'm looking for cheaper, so the smaller number. Subtract to figure out the by how much.